The torches hiss first. A thin line of fire sputters along the corridor as resin-soaked wood catches, and the shadows surge like startled animals along the carved stone walls. The girl's breath, shallow, trembling, uneven, floats in the chill. Before her face, like a ghost trying to flee her body. She is barefoot. The floor beneath her is cold limestone, worn smooth by centuries of steps. But she feels only the biting numbness crawling up her legs. Each exhale fogs in the air. Each inhale tastes faintly of smoke-damp clay and something metallic like an unspoken threat suspended in the dark. Chains clink, not hers yet. The corridor curves like a serpent descending into the earth deeper than any guest or diplomat ever walked. Only soldiers and eunuchs tread these halls, and tonight their footsteps echo with ritual precision. 4 men flank her, their armor smelling of sweat and oil, their faces expressionless beneath crested helmets of hammered bronze. They do not touch her. They do not speak. Their silence is a command sharper than any blade. She clutches her thin wool shawl to her chest, fingers trembling so violently the fabric twitches like a trapped bird. Somewhere behind her, a handmaid sobs, once quiet, strangled, quickly silenced. The princess daughter of a conquered king keeps her eyes forward. She has been told nothing. A torch sputters. The sudden flare of light glints across the glyphs, etched into the walls, winged spirits, coiled serpents. The watchful eyes of palace guardians meant to protect royalty. But down here the symbols feel inverted, like they are guiding her toward a place meant not for protection but for unmaking. She can almost feel them watching her, judging her, carving away the remnants of her life before this night. A draft of cold air slips beneath her shawl as they descend. It smells of stone, wet earth, and torches long burned out. The walls narrow, forcing the procession into single file. The soldier ahead of her carries a torch. Its flame flickers, casting his silhouette into a monstrous figure, stretching across the corridor. Every few steps she catches the faint metallic tap of something hanging from his belt. She cannot see it clearly, but the knowledge of its presence coils inside her stomach like an ember. To her left, the wall's stone surface shifts, grooves from chisels, ancient cracks, the faintest trace of painted bitumen, long faded. Her fingertips brush it once by accident. The stone is so cold it steals the warmth from her bones. Then the floor changes. The smooth limestone becomes rougher, uneven, textured with tiny ridges. She realizes these are tool marks, places where stone was removed, not laid. The corridor opens into a chamber, a circular room domed with torches placed in iron brackets around its perimeter. The smoke hangs low, forming a faint haze that trembles in the rising heat. The air smells thicker here, tinged with incense and something older like dust, sealed away for generations now disturbed. At the center of the chamber stands a stone platform, rectangular, unadorned, too deliberate to be natural. 2 eunuchs in long, dark robes stand beside it, their shaven heads gleaming in torchlight. Their eyes do not lift as she enters. They focus on a clay tablet pressed between them, lines of cuneiform carved deep enough to cast shadows. One holds a stylus. The other recites something under his breath, ritual words rehearsed emotionless. A third figure steps from the far corner of the chamber. The princess freezes. He is taller than the others, wrapped in layered fabrics of black and ochre, each fold weighted with bronze clasps. A ceremonial dagger hangs at his side, not drawn, but prominent, gleaming. His face is partially covered in a dark linen veil. Only his eyes show steady, unreadable, reflecting the flickering torches like polished obsidian. He looks at her for a long, measured moment. Her knees nearly give. A soldier nudges her forward with the slightest motion of his hand, barely a gesture, yet it feels like a verdict. The torches crackle, the flames bowing in the chamber's stagnant air. The girl's breath quivers as she steps toward the platform. One of the eunuchs unrolls a thin strip of cloth dyed deep red. It unfurls slowly like a single line of blood upon the stone surface. The man with the veiled face speaks at last, his voice low, resonant, and cold. "Bring her forward." The words echo through the chamber, bouncing off stone and shadow alike. The soldiers obey without hesitation. 2 step behind her. One approaches her side. Their armor grinds softly, bronze against bronze. Her breath fractures. Her fingers clutch the edge of her shawl so tightly the wool digs into her skin. She feels the warmth of tears rising, but does not let them fall. A princess of her kingdom does not cry before enemies. She repeats her father's teaching in her mind, the last words he ever spoke to her on the morning the Assyrians breached the walls. Do not let them see you break. But the platform looms before her, now cold, stark, merciless. And something deep within her whispers that breaking may no longer be hers to choose. A final torch flares, spitting sparks. The veiled man raises his hand. The soldiers move in, and as they reach for her shoulders, everything goes black. The torchlight fades, the chamber dissolves into darkness. And now, only the narrator's voice remains low and weighted like a sealed tomb being opened. For centuries, the fate of captive royal women under the Neo-Assyrian Empire lay buried beneath layers of empire-approved lies. The kings of Ashur left behind thousands of tablets boasting of their victories, their architecture, their gods, but almost nothing about the foreign princesses seized during conquest. Their erasure was intentional. Their silence was engineered. Yet silence cracks. In the last decade, archaeologists working in the shadows of crumbling palaces at Nimrud and Nineveh uncovered fragments, clay tablets discarded behind collapsed walls, scribal notes scratched into the backs of administrative records, bone fragments found where no royal burial should exist. These findings hint at a truth the empire worked tirelessly to bury: a system of control ritual and psychological unmaking designed specifically for women of royal blood captured in war. Each fragment whispers the same unsettling message. Do not let this be known. Do not record the rites. Erase the names of the foreign daughters. And yet here they are, resurfacing from the dust. This film follows those fragments. It reconstructs the story the Assyrian kings wanted sealed beneath their monumental slabs of alabaster. Through newly translated tablets, suppressed palace decrees, and the testimonies of ancient witnesses preserved by chance rather than intention, we follow the path of the princesses who vanished behind palace walls. Their names were nearly lost, their footsteps nearly erased, but the stone remembers, and tonight we listen. The story begins long before any princess was led down a torchlit corridor, long before chains rites or chambers carved beneath palaces. It begins with an idea, a dangerous one, a belief carved into the political marrow of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. The Assyrian kings did not simply conquer cities, they engineered obedience. Their palaces, those massive labyrinths of limestone slabs and cedar beams, were not only residences, but factories of fear. Every wall relief, every inscription, every meticulously arranged courtyard was designed to broadcast the same message: all lands bow to Ashur. The smell of bitumen incense and freshly carved stone hung constantly in these palaces. Dust coated the air, stirred by squads of laborers dragging new slabs into place. Scribes crouched near the walls, pressing reeds into raw clay to record lists, grain deliveries, numbers of prisoners, deported families, tribute from conquered lands. Their hands were stained with clay, their fingernails packed with dust. They were the unseen machinery of empire, and among their tablets, hidden, misfiled, or deliberately buried, are hints of policies not proudly carved into palace walls. Policies concerning the women taken from the kingdoms Assyria crushed. To understand what happened to captive princesses, one must understand the Assyrian worldview. Their ideology was not merely expansionist, it was cosmological. They believed the universe had an order established by their chief god Ashur. In that disorder, anything foreign, defiant, or uncontrolled must be subdued and reshaped under divine authority. Kings such as Ashurbanipal II, Shalmaneser III, Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon II, Sennacherib, and Ashurbanipal wrote annals overflowing with boasts. I bent the kings of distant lands to my yoke. Their daughters I led to Nineveh. The seed of their clans I placed under my heel. But what these annals do not say is how these daughters' foreign princesses were treated once the world stopped watching. Fragments from a lesser-known tablet discovered not in an archive, but inside palace rubble at Nimrud, contain a cryptic line. Those of royal blood taken in conquest must be purified from their former loyalties. Purified, a word that in Assyrian administration often meant transformed, broken, remade. Assyria did not dominate its empire through numbers alone. Its strength came from an intricate system of psychological pressure. Conquered peoples were deported en masse, torn from their homelands, and scattered across the empire to sever their identities. Walls of palace cities were adorned with reliefs, showing defeated kings kneeling, pleading, or chained like animals. These images, lit by torchlight, cast enormous shadows at night, turning the courts into theaters of submission. Even palace servants felt the weight of these messages. A young scribe named Bel-Eli, whose clay note was found behind a carved panel, wrote, "We walk beneath the eyes of kings even when the chambers are empty." Fear permeated everything. So when a foreign princess entered this world, she did not merely become a prisoner. She became a symbol, politically invaluable, spiritually dangerous, and psychologically targeted. Her presence was both a trophy and a potential threat. A royal woman carried lineage legitimacy and the hopes of her conquered people. Thus, the empire created systems to reshape her identity. The Assyrian palace hierarchy was meticulously crafted. Eunuchs trusted, loyal, severed from family lines held immense administrative power. They kept records, guarded private chambers, enforced ritual boundaries. Their presence around captive women was deliberate. Eunuchs were considered safe, incorruptible by familial alliances, incapable of fathering competing bloodlines. A clay tablet from the Northwest Palace lists palace roles: eunuch of the inner halls, guardian of the secluded chambers, keeper of the foreign daughters. The last title appears only once in surviving records. Only once. And yet it reveals an entire hidden administrative function, someone whose sole responsibility was supervising foreign royal women. A scribal note written hastily on the back of a deportation list adds, "Those not yet submitted require constant watch." The phrasing suggests a process, a transformation, something the empire expected to happen over time, something enforced. In Assyria, royal women were symbols of dynastic pride. Marriages brokered alliances, daughters were political tools. To capture a foreign princess was to seize the dignity of her people and the legitimacy of her father's rule. This alone was a potent weapon. But Assyria went further. Scholars often discuss the empire's practice of visual humiliation, forcing defeated kings to parade before the Assyrian court. But for women, the humiliation took other forms invisible to public record, preserved only in whispers across tablets that were never meant to survive. One fragment recovered from the burnt archive of Sennacherib's palace reads, "She entered the house of submission and her former name was taken." Another found at Nineveh details a ritual of cleansing requiring water from the sacred canal oil of the palace lamps and garments without color. Garments without color, clothing designed to strip identity, status, memory. To walk through an Assyrian palace today, its floors cracked, reliefs shattered halls. Silent is to feel the ghosts of its architecture. The rooms were enormous, the ceilings carved cedar smelling of resin. Courtyards opened to the sky where rain pattered against tile while prisoners shuffled through corridors below. The lower halls carved beneath the palaces are rarely discussed in popular histories, and yet archaeologists uncovered evidence of subterranean chambers, narrow corridors, air thick with moisture, the walls marked by soot from ancient torches. These were not prisons in the traditional sense. They were ritual spaces, controlled environments where identity could be dismantled. One archaeologist at Nimrud reported finding stone benches and recesses too narrow for ordinary use. Another described a chamber sealed with a slab covered in cuneiform warnings. Such architecture suggests a place both sacred and secretive, a controlled zone where foreign royals might be kept out of public sight. The gods played a central role. Captive princesses were not merely hostages, they were considered potential sources of spiritual contamination or disorder. Their foreign lineage was seen as a threat to cosmic stability. Thus, rituals of purification were framed not as cruelty, but as divine necessity. In one temple inventory from the reign of Ashurbanipal, a list appears: oil for the bindings, cloth for the daughters of rebellion, salt for the rites of forgetting. Salt, used in both preservation and erasure. Its inclusion in a ritual context is chilling. Priests believed that identity names, memories, loyalties could be stripped away through specific rites. A princess who resisted assimilation was seen not as a defiant individual, but as a spiritual obstacle, a reminder of a realm the empire had not fully broken. Finally, the larger context, royal women were bargaining chips, political symbols, and living proof of the king's dominion. Assyria understood that by controlling the daughters of defeated rulers, they controlled the narrative of conquest itself. A princess who accepted a new identity under Assyrian power demonstrated the superiority of the empire. A princess who resisted threatened the illusion of total control. Thus, the fate of these women was shaped not merely by cruelty, but by political engineering. And throughout the empire's history, these women appear only in fragments, never acknowledged directly, never named, never honored. But the fragments align. They point toward a system designed not to imprison bodies, but to unmake souls. And this system, buried beneath centuries of dust, burned archives, and collapsed ceilings, forms the shadowed foundation upon which the rest of our story stands. The empire expands like a tightening fist. Each conquered city, Arpad, Carchemish, Samaria, Musasir, adds another ring of authority around the Assyrian heartland. And with every campaign, the same scene repeats: dust-choked roads, soldiers chanting beneath the weight of bronze armor, and the long columns of prisoners bound together by ropes and fear. Their fates differ. Some are deported to distant provinces, some are enslaved in agricultural estates. But the daughters of defeated kings, the princesses, are always separated, always watched, always recorded, almost always erased. This is their story. The campaigns of Tiglath-Pileser III were brutal, efficient, unstoppable. Cities fell like torches in a storm, their walls trembling under the strike of battering rams. Amid the chaos, crumbling gates, screams in foreign tongues, smoke thickening the air. Soldiers were given explicit orders: do not harm the royal daughters, take them alive. A scribal field tablet recovered at Tel Tainat shows the instruction clearly: bring the daughters of the king to the camp, bind their hands with cloth, not rope, let no soldier speak to them. Written in haste, the tablet bears deep impressions from the stylus, as though the scribe carved the orders while the battle still echoed around him. One such capture is recorded fragmented in the memoir of an unnamed soldier. His clay note, likely intended as personal writing practice, was found in a trash pit. It describes the moment their forces stormed a small Anatolian fortress and seized Princess Atara, age 17. She stood in the doorway, hands lifted, trembling. The general ordered her covered with a white cloth so the men would not look upon her. She asked if her father lived. No one answered. He adds, the smoke was thick. She could not stop coughing. When she stumbled, the cloth slipped, and I saw her eyes filled with dread, but silent. She did not scream. Atara was one of dozens taken during those years. Others were captured along the desert roads. One tablet from Dur-Katlimu records the march of prisoners through the Kabur region. 97 daughters of nobles, 12 of royal blood, water scarce, many fainted. The dust clogged their throats, the sun blistered their skin. Their shoes wore thin and tore, leaving their feet raw and bleeding on the hot stones. The soldiers gave no comfort. Their task was to deliver the princesses alive, not to ease their suffering. One Princess Naramti of Arpad is noted in a marginal scribal line. She refused to walk. 2 soldiers carried her. She wept quietly. It is the only record of her existence. When the desert winds rose, filling the air with burning sand, the princesses covered their faces with torn veils. Their breaths came ragged. The ropes connecting the prisoners chafed the skin of their wrists. Nights were worse, cold, sleepless, punctuated by the distant howls of wolves and the murmurs of guards shifting in the darkness. By the time they reached the borders of Assyria, many were too weak to stand, and yet their ordeal had only begun. Nineveh rises from the northern plain, like a world unto itself, colossal walls, glazed bricks catching the sunlight, ziggurats towering above as if reaching to seize the sky. The air smells of incense wafting from temple courtyards of animals in the market pens of the tanneries outside the walls. But the princesses do not enter through the grand gates. They are brought through a narrow side entrance near the river, a gate used for livestock and prisoners. The ground there is muddy. Reeds grow thick along the riverbank. Soldiers lead the princesses single file, their eyes downcast, their bodies shivering from exhaustion. Witnesses were not supposed to see them, but one tablet written by a potter who lived near the gate describes a haunting moment. I saw a line of young women. Their hair was tangled with dust, their clothes torn. They walked as if the earth beneath them was not real. One of them looked at me in empty stare like someone drowned but still breathing. From the river gate, the princesses are taken to a holding complex near the palace, a place known in administrative records as the House of the Foreign Daughters. Very few tablets mention it and none describe it in detail. But excavations at Nimrud uncovered a cluster of rooms beneath the palace, small windowless with heavy doors and thick stone walls. One archaeologist speculated these might have housed politically sensitive individuals. A clay list found nearby recorded provisions. For 10 women, barley oil cloth without dye. For 2 scribes, reeds and tablets. For the eunuch, overseer, incense. The unnamed eunuch appears frequently in such records, always described only as the overseer. His authority was absolute within these chambers. His duty ensured the princesses complied. Complied with what? The surviving fragments offered chilling clues. Identity in Assyria was power. A name carried lineage, honor, divine protection. To remove a name was to sever a person from their past. The first rite mentioned in 3 broken tablets was called the stripping of names. It took place in a small stone chamber with a single torch bracket. The air inside was often described as cold even in summer. The princesses were brought in one by one. A fragmentary ritual text preserved in Ashurbanipal's library contains the line, "Before the king she shall not bear the name of a foreign house." Another tablet adds, "Her former name is written on clay washed with water from the sacred canal and dissolved." To dissolve a name was a symbolic death. Some princesses resisted. The scribal notes occasionally hint at this. One reads, "The daughter of King Mati-Ilu refused to speak the new name. She was taken to the dark chamber. What happened there is unclear." But the next line states only, "She returned silent." After the rite, each princess was given a new name, usually one that meant obedient, humble, or gift of Ashur. Their old identities were erased, their memories stripped of context, reinterpreted through the lens of empire. Atara became Lulaya, meaning the quiet one. Naramti became Belti Ashur, Lady of Ashur. These new names were inscribed onto fresh clay tablets and placed in a sealed storeroom beneath the palace. None of the original names were kept, not one. A second phase followed a rite described only obliquely in administrative euphemisms. The place is mentioned as the Chamber of the Red Cloth, likely the same room shown in Part 1's Cold Open. A heavily worn tablet from the reign of Sargon II reads, "The daughters are brought to the chamber where the red cloth is laid. There they are prepared." Prepared for what? Another fragment adds, "They shall stand with hands folded. They shall not speak unless spoken to." A eunuch's personal note found centuries later behind a stone panel in the Northwest Palace contains more detail. The cloth symbolizes the severing of former bonds. They tremble. The air is dim. Many resist. Some collapse. He adds in a shaky hand, "I do not know if this is what the gods desire." This line was crossed out by another hand, likely a superior. Whatever occurred in the chamber of the red cloth was a psychological turning point. The princesses entered it with their new names, but remnants of their old selves. They left it hollow-eyed, shoulders drawn inward, as if something essential had been taken. One tablet describes a princess afterward. Her breathing shallow, hands cold, eyes without focus. The chamber was not used for violence. There's no blood, no mention of physical harm. Instead, it was a rite of terror, a breaking of will, a ritual humiliation framed as divine purification. Scribes were supposed to record only approved information, but humans leave traces. In the margins of tablets and broken pieces discarded behind walls, in practice notes baked accidentally in fires, glimpses of truth emerge. One young scribe, Nebuchadnezzar, wrote, "I was told to document the arrival of the royal daughters. Their faces were pale. One clutched a bracelet in her hand, refusing to release it. The overseer removed it forcibly. She fell to her knees." Another scribe describes the atmosphere. The chamber smelled of cold oil and stone. The torches flickered as if afraid. When the doors closed, the echoes lingered for long moments like a low moan. A more disturbing account comes from a practice tablet inscribed by an apprentice. The princess asked for her mother. The overseer told her she had no mother now. She shook until she could not stand. The emotional destruction was systematic. A line repeated across several tablets. Their past is undone. Eunuchs, often depicted as unfeeling instruments of the state, were not immune to the moral weight of their duties. Some tablets show cracks in their obedience. One eunuch wrote a private tablet likely never meant to be found. "Their eyes haunt me. The young one from Carchemish whispers songs at night, the lullabies of her homeland. I pretend not to hear." Another tablet includes a rare description of compassion. "She could not sleep. I brought warm water. She thanked me softly. I fear this work." Yet even these men, mutilated and reshaped by the state, ultimately enforced the system. One writes, "Resigned. We obey because disobedience is death." The most chilling rite appears in only 2 surviving fragments. It is called the Ritual of Forgetting. One tablet describes its purpose, to remove the loyalty of the daughters to their father's house. Another fragment nearly destroyed reads, "Let the memory fade as clay dissolves beneath water." Based on the surviving evidence, the ritual involved reciting their old names aloud one final time, watching the tablet bearing those names be placed in water, standing in silence until the tablet dissolved, speaking their new names 3 times. The effect was psychological, not physical. One scribe notes, "Many wept silently. One screamed until her voice broke." Another writes, "After the water clouded, she fell to the ground." The ritual did not punish the body, it dismantled the mind. Once stripped of their identity, the princesses were assimilated into the palace system. They learned the Assyrian language, customs, and rituals. But this was not education, it was reprogramming. A clay memorandum from the reign of Esarhaddon lists, instruction in speech, posture, obedience, silence. Silence was a virtue demanded of them. Their voices belonged to the palace now. Their past languages were suppressed. One tablet notes, "The girl from Musasir refuses to speak in Assyrian. she is taken for correction. Correction a euphemism with no surviving explanation. A palace note mentions 4 days in the lower hall, no speech permitted. Afterward, she speaks only what is asked, not all submitted quietly. The broken records contain rare moments of defiance. One tablet burned on one side reads, "She broke the stylus when ordered to write her new name. She shouted the name of her father." Another fragment describes, "The daughter of the king of Quay struck the overseer across the face. Her punishment is not listed." A third fragment contains only one chilling line. "She refused the rites. She was taken below." Below appears repeatedly in euphemistic notes. It likely refers to the sealed subterranean chambers archaeologists have only partially uncovered. Resistance rarely ended well, but some resisted not with violence but with memory. One princess sang lullabies of her homeland at night. Another continued making small gestures of her native culture, tying her hair a certain way, tracing patterns on the stone floor. A scribe wrote, "Even in silence she carried her past like a hidden flame." Over time, weeks, months, perhaps years, many princesses broke. A scribe wrote, "Her eyes no longer lift. She walks as if the air is heavy." Another tablet, "She does not eat unless commanded. She sits with hands folded, unmoving." The psychological collapse was the intended outcome. Some princesses faded into quiet obedience, becoming shadows in palace corridors. They were moved to lesser chambers, given simple duties, or left without task. Others disappeared entirely from the records. One tablet listing supplies for 11 women is followed by a later list for 9 women with no explanation for the missing 2. Another list records garments for 7, food for 6, then 5, then 4. Their new names remain, but the individuals vanish from the tablets. Did they die? Were they sent elsewhere, buried in unmarked ground? Assigned to ritual roles, never documented. The tablets provide no answers, but one scribal note scribbled hastily on a clay shard gives a clue. 2 were taken below and not returned. Always below. Every system of oppression has a breaking point, an event that exposes its true nature. In the narrative pieced together from tablets, that moment comes during the reign of Sennacherib, infamous for the destruction of Babylon. One tablet discovered beneath collapsed stone in the northwest palace describes a princess who refused the ritual of forgetting. She would not speak the new name. She struck the bowl of water. She cried that her father lives in her. The overseer declared her unfit for assimilation. A second tablet, badly cracked, adds, "Orders given for the final rite." The final rite appears nowhere else in surviving records. But a third fragment contains a haunting detail. Chains of red bronze prepared. Red bronze and alloy used in ritual bindings, not physical punishment. Another fragment reads, "Taken to the sealed chamber beneath the east wing." Archaeologists later uncovered such a chamber, a sealed room with stone benches, rusted metal rings set into the floor, and ash in the corners. In the tablet found near that room, the final line is the most chilling. Her voice was heard for some time, then silence. The record ends there. And from that moment onward, no further mention of the princesses appears in palace archives for nearly a decade, as though the system itself recoiled from what it had done, or feared discovery. The final stage of the system was erasure, removing the princesses from memory, from record, from history itself. Clay tablets were overwritten or destroyed. Tablets listing their names were dissolved in water. Reliefs depicting foreign captives were chipped away. The palace annals, which boasted endlessly of victories, remained silent about the daughters. One tablet records, "Their chambers are to be sealed. Let no one enter." Another, "The records of their coming shall not be shown." The empire wished the world to believe that the princesses simply vanished into the palace as compliant women grateful for the king's mercy. The truth was far darker, and the silence was deliberate. But silence does not last forever. The dust remembers what the kings hoped to forget. And beneath that dust, buried in fractured tablets and shadowed chambers, the truth waits. For decades, archaeologists working at Nimrud believed they understood the full map of the Northwest Palace, its throne rooms, courtyards, inner halls, and guard chambers. The layout seemed complete until a collapsed wall in the eastern sector revealed a narrow fissure in the stone. Behind it, hidden under centuries of rubble, lay a sealed door of limestone carved with a warning in cuneiform. "Let no one enter who is not of the king's blood." The script was unusual, older than the surrounding structure, its wedges deeper carved not by a royal scribe, but by a priestly hand. The door had no hinges. It was a solid slab fitted so precisely into the frame that engineers had to remove it piece by piece. What they uncovered was a room no larger than a small stable. Its air was stagnant, thick with dust. Torches revealed stone benches along the walls and circular recesses carved into the floor. Recesses too small for ordinary use, too deliberately shaped for natural wear. Rusted rings of red bronze protruded from the stone, their surfaces scarred by stress and time. But the true revelation lay in the corner, a stack of clay tablets sealed in bitumen, preserved as if someone wanted them hidden, but indestructible. Once softened and separated, the tablets revealed a chilling title repeated across several: Tablets of the Royal Reconditioning Rite. These were not administrative records, they were instructions. One tablet outlined the philosophy behind the rite. The daughters of defeated kings carry within them the seed of rebellion. Their spirits must be broken and reshaped. Only then may they serve the harmony of Ashur. Another listed procedures eerily similar to the fragments found elsewhere: the stripping of names, the rite of the red cloth, the ritual of forgetting. But then came the final tablet, the most disturbing of all. Its opening line read, "When a daughter refuses the yoke, her spirit must be dissolved." The text describes the sealed chamber beneath the palace. Its torches dimmed its air, heavy with incense. The captive is bound with red bronze seated before a bowl of oil and water. Priests chant a ritual meant to symbolically separate the spirit from its rebellion. The tablet ends abruptly. If she still resists, the silence shall take her. Archaeologists found no explanation for the silence. But in the sealed chamber, they discovered faint scratches on the stone behind one benchmarks that did not match tools, marks that resembled fingernails. The Assyrian kings tried to erase the princesses from history, yet here in a room drowned by darkness and soot, their truth endured, a truth the empire never meant anyone to see. The revelation of the sealed chamber did not merely illuminate a forgotten corner of Assyrian history, it cast a long, heavy shadow across everything we thought we knew about the empire. Its palaces, once admired for their monumental artistry, now feel different. The carved reliefs of kings and chariots lions brought to heel ambassadors bowing low, they remain visually magnificent, yet their splendor is pierced by the faint echo of unseen suffering. Because behind those walls, beneath those floors and chambers without windows or names, live the daughters of fallen kingdoms. Empires rise on the illusion of permanence. They carve their victories into stone, raise towering walls, proclaim their divine mandate across continents. Yet the Neo-Assyrian Empire, once the most powerful force of its age, collapsed swiftly, violently, unexpectedly. Its kings immortalized in alabaster died or vanished. Its palaces burned, its libraries crumbled, its gods fell silent, but the victims remained. Fragments of bone, scratches on stone, clay tablets no king intended to survive. These are the voices that endured longer than proclamations etched into triumphal reliefs. The empire built on domination revealed its greatest weakness. Truths buried in darkness still find ways to rise. The princesses who passed through those subterranean halls never led armies, never built monuments, never wrote annals boasting of conquest. They had no scribes to immortalize them, no temples to invoke their names. And yet across millennia, it is their whispers, not the kings, that now command our attention. Their suffering outlived the throne rooms that contained it. Their erased identities resurfaced from the dust the empire hoped would silence them. Their stolen names dissolved in ritual bowls, returned through the smallest, most fragile of artifacts. Cracked tablets, faded ink scratches in stone. History is not written only by the victors, it is also written by what refuses to stay buried. And when we listen, truly listen to the faint memories carved into clay, we discover a truth deeper than empire. Power crumbles, kings fall, but the memory of the powerless survives in the dust, patient and unyielding. And in that dust, if you lean close enough, you may still hear a whisper rising from beneath the stone. I was here.